What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Retro Encounter. As always, I am Josh Curry. With me is Mike Sollosi.
Hello, everybody.
And Chris Gebauer.
Hello.
In this exciting 20th episode, or 20th game, whatever, our number system sucks, we are covering Child of Light, a very, very unique Ubisoft game, which I think this is our first Ubisoft game we've covered.
Yeah, probably.
No, we did well, I guess it was THQ originally, but we did South Park.
I always forget about that Switch.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I guess we're the Ubisoft team right here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're the Ubisoft trio.
All right,
We're the only three that can cover Ubisoft games on the site.
Decreed as of now.
If there's ever an Assassin's Creed RPG, we're the three that are going to have to cover it.
Maybe we'll just cover the new Assassin's Creed game instead. That's fine. I'm sure everybody will love that.
Yeah, I'm sure that would go over real well.
Hey, Chris, what's your favorite watchtower? How about none of them?
That one that was tall. That's my answer.
Ugh.
Hey, don't give it crap. I like Assassin's Creed games.
I liked Assassin's Creed games in like 2010.
That pirate one was real good.
I haven't played any of them after Brotherhood, but 2 and Brotherhood are both good. Maybe we should actually talk about Child of Light instead.
No. You're the one that said you want to talk about Assassin's Creed, and that's.
Now we're talking about pirates. There we go.
But I think kind of talking about Assassin's Creed is a good point to bring up. The Child of Light kind of came out of a really unique era. Ubisoft is considered a AAA developer, absolutely. I mean, like they put out substantial games, but they kind of got into this cycle of Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and there's a third game that I am blanking on. But they kind of churn these out annually. And the early 2000s became a really unique time period because all of a sudden they're like, let's go back to Rayman. Let's do a completely custom-made framework to be able to develop on. And from that framework, you had the Rayman games come out. You had Child of Light. You had Valiant Hearts. And although it's
the Rayman games from Origins onward are on Ubisoft.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's 2011 to about 2015.
Yeah. And then even during that time, they did the weird Far Cry Blood Dragon. So you have like the early 2010s to mid 2010s. It was like a really, really interesting time at Ubisoft where they
that's right.
Like allowing these people to do
Housemarque game.
Yeah. Shoot, that was a really good game too.
That was a great one. Can't remember the name right now, but it was a Metroidvania, switching between red, blue, exactly.
Yeah. It was a really weird time because you have a lot of these big developers. They talk about we want to have these indie pushes and we want to do really creative things, but at the end of the day, they're kind of beholden to their stockholders, and they need to churn out these big titles that are going to make them boatloads of money. And so, like, I remember being shocked when they announced, kind of like had this slew of announcements because like this doesn't seem to fit.
Well, slew of announcements. It was 2 games in 2013, 2014.
That's a slew of announcements.
But
I count Blood Dragon in that too.
Oh,
so
well,
there's 3.
Yeah, but
basically what they were doing is they were rewarding their content creators with, we know that you guys have to, I'm going to put in quotations, slog through these annual releases. We want to reward you by having these passion projects and like take a break, do something creative, kind of be able to refresh and then bring that back in so that you're able to not just get burnt out with these games. Okay. So that's why I count that all together.
Well,
talking about go ahead, Mike.
I mean, I agree with your basic premise. I mean, Ubisoft makes all of their money with Far Cry and Assassin's Creed and the Tom Clancy games, and probably
Tom Clancy. There we go.
And probably more games that I'm forgetting. And UbiArt is this really cool engine and framework that they started with Rayman Origins and have basically made available to small teams in the Ubisoft family, because Ubisoft is like a dozen studios, and their biggest ones are in France and Canada, but they have studios all over the world, and thousands of people work on each Assassin's Creed game. But Child of Light, which is in the UbiArt engine of Rayman Origins, and Valiant Hearts, which came out the same year, are in, basically, were just small teams from within Ubisoft that were, like Josh said, basically passion projects that were never going to make a ton of money, but were existing, maybe for because these were games that these creators wanted to make, because maybe they thought it would be able to give Ubisoft another look. Like, you don't think of either of them as the kind of game Ubisoft released. I'm never sure if it's Ubi or Ubisoft, but I'm gonna try to say Ubisoft.
It's
I think it's
ubiquitous
Ubi.
software, so
Okay. So it is.
it's
Okay. I did not know that. Thank you, Chris.
Ubisoft.
But I choose to just pronounce it how I want. So.
But anyway, it's cool. Like, Valiant Hearts and Child of Light are super interesting and visually very interesting games that were well received when they came out. And Josh, I wouldn't really put Blood Dragon in that framework because I think that was just people on the Far Cry team messing around. But the other game I would put in that category was Grow Home.
Yeah,
which is
Grow Home, and then Chris had mentioned before the Housemarque game. Before we go too far, that was Outland.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Outland was a lot of fun. Not in this framework, but that was part of the we're courting indie developers thing, and that was the first and still only Housemarque game that wasn't a console Sony exclusive.
Yeah, and so at the end of the day, I really really enjoy Ubisoft games. But you start looking at a lot of these quote unquote side games, and those have actually been some of my favorites over the course of the years.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Child of Light came out, I loved this. It was one of my favorite games of the year. It was super super refreshing. I've unfortunately never gotten around to Valiant Hearts, but it's always been on the top of my list to play. And it's
It'll give you a very similar feel. I'm
kind of making the assumption for Valiant Hearts on this, but we'd mentioned multiple times passion projects, and I think that really comes across in the work. You can see the tender love and care that they put into this, and I don't think Valiant Hearts put a smile on your face per se, but that extra care makes you like Child of Light. Like I play the entire time I'm playing the game, I have this massive smile on my face. Like I am happy playing it. It has that extra polish on it.
What was so fascinating about the UbiArt initiative when it started with Rayman Origins, when they brought Michel Ancel out at different forums to basically discuss this engine that he and his team had developed, there was this concept behind it of freedom for developers to create beautiful cartoon, themed games in terms of that style. And of course, using Rayman Origins as the kind of first show of look what you can do. And they marketed it as it's super simple to use. It's going to cut costs so that small developer and small teams, eventually Child of Light and Valiant Hearts, could make a game much more simply than would have been thought for a PlayStation 3 or an Xbox 360 because of the tools at hand. And they talked about it as, eventually we're going to be licensing it out and we're going to let the public use it. And sadly, I don't think I know of any other team outside of the Ubisoft family that ever got a chance to really do anything with the UbiArt framework.
It ended up being just a boatload of Rayman games on iOS.
Yeah, which is I mean, I don't want to say it's super sad because it's of course proprietary and you're allowed to do what you want with your own product. But yeah, it was disappointing because if as Michel Ancel, who is definitely one of those holdovers from the very old school days of software design, where he always talks about how everything should just be free access to an extent and just make what you want. But that was kind of the idea of we've created a platform to oversimplify the process and still let you have a beautiful looking game.
I'm a little worried that part of the reason we aren't seeing more UbiArt games nowadays is because Ubisoft is undergoing some very weird politics right now.
With the stock seizures and all the rest of it.
Yeah, and Ancel's not with the company anymore. He left after Rayman Legends.
Contract.
He's like half there.
He's working on a really big, neat-looking game called Wild right now. But he's also partially back there to work on Beyond Good and Evil 2, and his brother is still employed at Ubisoft. So it's a really strange situation. But the only UbiArt games that we got that were big console releases were Rayman Origins, Rayman Legends, Valiant Hearts, and Child of Light.
And if you count those as big, I don't really like.
I know. Poor choice.
He's
of words,
avoiding. He's avoiding the iOS titles.
Console releases were those four. but you're right. Like this was the whole idea was that they could make this engine that was a versatile 2D engine that could support multiple gameplay types, and they could design games basically as fast as you can make the art assets.
Mm-hmm. Which meant very quick turnaround in comparison to standard AAA, and of course, I mean, with Child of Light and Valiant Hearts Double or single A, but just expedite the process to the nth degree in a way that, in complaints of, oh, now that we've gone to HD, everything's so much harder. When they were saying this, everyone was going, oh my god, this is going to be part of the future, and then nothing happened with it.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, I call it like Nintendo design almost. You look at a lot of old games. By old, I mean Super Nintendo and PlayStation. Let's go with those two eras. And you look at, we'll just compare Nintendo to PlayStation during that time period, which I know timelines kind of don't fully work, but now most of those PlayStation games look like crap. They visually they don't work because they were trying to push rough. Right. And the great thing about a lot of the Nintendo games back in the day, and how I'm kind of viewing the UbiArt games as currently, these games will always look good.
Yep.
There is an artistry to them. There's not bleeding edge, but it is visually dynamic. And like kind of switching the conversation.
And a pure artistic vision.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not the standard, and especially in that era when everything was about the grays and the muted browns from, the inspired Gears of War palette that went into every major shooter, and understandably so. Yeah, exactly. The very muted color palette. These games were, and you talked about it when you played Child of Light, a breath of fresh air, because all of a sudden on your TV was this bright, beautiful pop. I mean, Rayman Origins is one of my favorite platformers.
Oh.
And that game just was fun,
Fantastic.
Basic story, but it was funny and in its weird quirks. It harkened back to the original that I remember playing as a kid, except it actually had good mechanics instead of that original game that launched with my PlayStation. And all of a sudden, every level you're in is this beautiful tapestry.
Yeah.
This wonderful painting that's moving and breathing and laughing at you because it's such a goofy game.
Child of Light specifically, like I really like Rayman as well, but they really, really nail
the artistry
painting.
Of it.
Yes, yeah. It is
romantic era, 19th century, Germanic and British paintings, just friggin' in a game that you're walking through. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is a child's tale. Like it is.
It's classic fairy tale illustration.
Yes.
Like if you go back to your traditional Grimms and your whatnots, where you really had the illustrator was as much of the storyteller as literature itself.
Child of Light feels illustrated and not like and not like just a video game's graphics. I'm probably gonna try and consciously not try to say the word storybook 20 times during this podcast.
I know it's hard
because everything about Child of Light is storybook, from the visuals to the dialogue to the characters.
It breaks it into chapters
to the situations,
which almost feels, because they have like a panning picture of nobody in it, and it just shows this is your new setting, you're in a new chapter. It does, like I got a huge reminder of kind of a mixture of Alice in Wonderland and Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah,
so that kind of adds that aesthetic.
Both of those were, late 19th, early 20th century stories that had a very distinct visual component and, have a storybook feel to them.
Yeah,
even
that's
though
the golden age of children's literature that we're talking about. So it's
perhaps unfairly though, I associate those more closely with their films than with the books.
Yeah,
but I totally understand how either of them could be related to Child of Light, because both of them are young women sort of thrust into magical realism is probably the wrong term, but like very strange situations, stranger in a strange land,
right?
But
going through the looking glass essentially and encountering the unknown and then trying to make your way back.
But going through the looking glass or having your house tossed into a magical land is a little bit different from probably dying.
So I actually want to talk about that, and maybe want to have this closing conversation, but it seems to fit here. So the implication is that she is dead, or she's in a coma,
or on death's doorstep.
Right.
That's how I think.
Where are your guys' thoughts on that.
Okay,
So I have a very outside so.
Has
Like I
everyone
mentioned
finished
earlier,
the game before? Because you did,
I
Josh.
I
I
had
have
not finished it before.
I
I
have
didn't.
played
not.
to about where we stopped here. So I played to the same spot twice now.
Okay, Mike.
I have played less of it than Josh. I bought this game shortly after it came out, partially because I loved the soundtrack and even put it on my best RPG soundtracks of 2014 thing for RPG Fan. But I only played through the first chapter and got bored, which is
Oh,
awful because
nice.
the end of the second chapter is when the game gets really good. So yeah, but that's my fault. But I replayed it over this past week and got to the point where we agreed to stop at the beginning of chapter 7.
Okay.
All right. So actually, hilariously, I'm in a very similar boat to you, Josh. I
Nice.
got to, I think, chapter 8 originally when I
Okay.
rebooted the game, and I loved it. Like you said, very similar when I first got it after it came out on Vita. Was so happy, had been waiting for it. And I forget what came out the next month, but some other game showed up, and I got halfway through that other title and was like, oh, I don't even remember where I was, and always told myself I'd come back to it. And the beauty of this podcast is it gives you a reason.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
awesome.
What is everybody's theory then about Aurora?
Okay, I have a very specific theory.
Okay.
And this touches into multiple things in the first half of the game. Now, we know from what the Lady of the Woods said at the end of the second chapter that there was a Queen of Light that ruled this land. I think it's called Lemuria?
Lemuria.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And she left, and then an evil queen took over, and that's all the darkness that's happening in Lemuria. Now, I think what happened was the Queen of Light was our heroine's mother, and when she died is when the Queen of Light left this land, and I'm not sure I'm not sure exactly how, but for some reason, I can't think of the Aurora. Is it or is it Aurelia? Yeah, Aurora. Yeah,
No, it's Aurora.
Yeah, okay. Just like Sleeping Beauty. So Aurora falls into a deep sleep, just like Sleeping Beauty, and either her soul or I guess her soul's probably her soul traveled to Lemuria, maybe spurred on by her mother. Like her mother is transported Aurora's soul to Lemuria to try and save it, is my theory. And originally I thought maybe this was a journey to the afterlife and she was in limbo or something, but that got dashed a little bit when she met Nora, because Nora is her stepsister from the real world, and she accidentally traveled to Lemuria through, I think she even said it was through a mirror, right?
Yeah.
And she was forced through the mirror.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that this is not the afterlife. This is some kind of other world or dream world or something that Aurora is destined to save, being the Queen of Light's daughter, is what I think is going on.
Yep. I'm in a very similar boat. I think that the Dark Queen is clearly the second wife, to me, of the king, and that she's the one responsible for putting the other one through the mirror.
You know, I thought about
because
that too.
someone had to forcibly do it. But again, I actually don't know. So
I thought about that too. But otherwise, why would Nora be so nice to her? I thought that might have been the case, because the second wife is exactly the kind of NPC that could be secretly evil, even though we haven't.
Exactly.
We've seen her, but not really met her.
It's more about the trope of that type of a scenario more than anything specific that tells me that's who's doing this. But I think about the world Lemuria kind of similar to a Pan's Labyrinth kind of magic realism, or even Ni no Kuni, where there's that argument of, is it real or is it the imagination? And I always find it more fun to believe that those worlds are real.
And going back to
and that's not just specific people who have either the predestined, whether it be fate or whatnot, or as Mike said, they are just the daughter of, and so they're the chosen ones. And because of that, they're the ones who are allowed to see these worlds and save them and all the rest of it.
So I go a very, very different direction with all this. I remember my original theory when I first started playing. I think I had replayed Limbo recently, and so I thought something had happened to her mom, and her dad fell into a coma, and she was going to save her dad, or died like So instead of her dying, her dad died.
Right.
But then I started coming up with this theory towards the end of me playing last time, and it's like I've been so focused on it during this time, and it all has to do with her crown. So her crown says "faux" on it.
Oh yeah,
So,
like fake or false.
Fake.
Yes, and so the direction I go with this, which it'd be really cool if they did this, but I don't think they're actually going to do this. I think her dad got divorced with her mom. There's a stepmom, and this is a little girl that is struggling to understand what this is, and so she is made a make-believe world for herself, where she is trying to come to terms with an issue that is bigger than she can understand.
Of divorce and stepmother. And...
Yes.
That's a cool theory, but I don't think divorce happened. I think they made it clear that her mother died.
Even if she died.
Okay, sure.
You just mean in the sense of dealing with that, a child dealing with new parents or
dealing with all of that there, whether it is divorce, because it could be they're saying that she died for this story because she's no longer part of her life. Like there could be justification beyond that.
Sure.
And I keep going back to that because it's weird because she keeps saying don't call me a princess, but if it was her make believe, she should be called princess. But that crown like really, really irritates me because if she is a real princess, the crown would not say that. And I feel like that is like a nod to all of this is not real. And then you start looking at symbolism of individuals involved in the story and what they could represent in the real world, and that's the best I've been able to tie all of it together.
I don't think that's it. I think it's more like every time she insists that she's not the princess, she shows them, hey, look, my crown says fake on it. And I think that's just a visual cue rather than a deeper meaning.
Supposedly is a princess.
Kind of. Remember, her father's a duke, so she's not really a... Well, I guess that's technicality. Maybe I missed it in the story. They said princess, and I missed it.
I'm not sure whether, like, the nomenclature... I'm not sure if she's a princess or not in the real world, because it's...
Yeah, so that's what I don't remember if they mentioned that specifically at the beginning, or if princess first comes up when everyone sees her in Lemuria, because she has a crown. And they've clearly been told to wait for a princess, a lot of them, or they've been told by... whatever the lady, in the stained glasses or some other force has told people. Yeah. Thank you, Lady in the Woods. Has said to certain people that there's going to be a princess. So when they see the crown, they go, "Oh my God, princess!" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm Aurora."
Aurora. No, I think that's basically it. I think she isn't a princess in real life. Her dad gave her a crown for the party that happened before her soul left her, or whatever.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, right. And because at the beginning you see her dad giving her the crown, and I think every time someone calls her princess, she takes off the crown and goes, "No, I'm not a real princess. Yeah. See, this crown is fake. This crown is fake." But again, my theory, I think that her mother really is the Queen of Light that left. So she probably is technically the Princess of Lemuria, but she insists repeatedly that she isn't.
Or died. I think the Queen of Light is actually dead. So she's either going to go to the talk of is this the afterlife? Again, I take the Pan's Labyrinth version, and it's not, but that she might not ever come back to life in the real world and may become the Queen of Lemuria.
Yeah, I thought Lemuria might have been the afterlife at first, because it seemed at the beginning that she may have even died in a fire, because she mentioned that there was fire underneath her or something in the very opening sequence, but that's probably not important. And I think Lemuria is an other world like Wonderland or Oz, and not the afterlife. Even though at the beginning, at first, I thought that might have been the case.
I mean, I could see how that could end up being the story, but to me, I just haven't seen enough hints or clues to really strengthen that theory. It's just to me an interesting idea that might play out over the next chapters. But
correct me if I'm wrong. It's hard because, like Mike said, the movies have so distorted it at this point. Isn't there a theory that Alice specifically, like, she did not go to Wonderland?
Yeah, with Alice, it's a weird thing where when the first book ends, when she goes through the Looking Glass. Yeah, no, that's the second book, is Through the Looking Glass.
The first one is she goes down a rabbit hole.
She goes down the rabbit hole. But when she escapes after the trial, what she escapes to while she's running away and she hears Alice, Alice, she pops awake and she's been asleep under a tree the whole time.
And in The Wizard of Oz, I think both in the book and the movie, Auntie M indicates to her, "You hit your head and woke up." And at least in the movie version, the actors that played the Scarecrow, Tin Man, Lion, and Wizard were all just people that she knew.
People on the farm, yeah.
Yeah, well, the Wizard was a traveling salesman, but yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like there's also the implication in Oz that maybe it's a real place, maybe it's part of her imagination, but then they made like 6 other Oz books, so okay,
Yeah.
Oz really is a real place. But
And also with Alice, with Through the Looking Glass, that's the one that makes it, this clearly has to be a place, and maybe Alice is the only one who can go
So-
there, because she really
Right.
legitimately goes through a mirror, the Looking Glass.
So in both of those stories, the first one has ambiguities whether it's a real world or not, and then the sequels
Yeah.
establish it as more of a place.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's kind of redirect the conversation. We've talked about a lot of high level of this. Let's actually talk about the game.
Sure, let's do it.
We've talked about how gorgeous it is. With that, there's also really good music. I know how much you guys like talking about music, so we acknowledge that.
The music's
Yay,
really good.
music.
It's by a French artist named Cœur de Pirate, which means pirate heart, and it is super pretty and has a lot of small orchestrations and solo piano, and it's really really good.
Yeah, I was going to say, the piano work is pretty fantastic.
But there's a lot of uniqueness beyond even kind of the visual and the music. All the dialogue's done in rhyme, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah.
And
It's
then they
not
even throw
always
in-
in meter, but it is always
No.
rhymed, except when
Right.
Rubella is talking,
which is
Yes.
hilarious.
Which is great, because it breaks
great
the
character
established-
gag.
It's one of those things. I think it's impressive that they're able to effectively do a dialogue and a story that all of it is rhyming. I think it's even
Oh.
more impressive that they have her speak in something that's almost a rhyme and screws up at the end.
I think it was an interview with the writer of the. It was an interview with the writer of the game. I think it was on the PlayStation blog. I think it was Ryan Clements did it. But Clements asked about, how hard was it to write this game, and make sure you always had a rhyme. And the guy basically was explaining, like, so it was awful. I mean, it was what I wanted to do, but it was awful because there would be so many times where you're just like, how the hell do I find a rhyme for the scenario?
Right.
And it might have been in that interview or somewhere else where he talks about what he loved about Rubella was that he was able to always, if he wasn't coming up with the right kind of goof or gag, he could always just be like, whatever, I'll say something else and have someone else kind of correct it for her, and it's going to be great. I can always have a catch-all if it doesn't work with the meter.
They also cheat a lot of times with having 2 dialogues on the same line so that they're able to not necessarily have the rhyme for that individual, but a response to that.
So it's what it ends up being is more like a classic verse, like when you're doing Shakespeare or Marlowe or something like that, where as long as you fit the meter, you can have characters kind of overlap and all the rest of it. And
Yes.
it's in a lot of stuff. That's just I'm going for a more common.
But no, I sort of think that's they deliberately avoid that. The dialogue in Child of Light is not in meter. It's definitely not like.
Well, it's not 10. It's not. You don't have your trochees and feet.
No, it's not iambic pentameter. But also there's. They don't even do syllable counts all the time. They just make sure to have an A-B rhyme scheme with every 4 lines.
Right.
So it's a game of unmetered quatrains. How's that? Does that work for you?
That's totally accurate. It's actually totally accurate. But they do. I do feel like they try, for the most part, except in certain cases, especially when they're finishing the rhyme on the rhyme system on the 4th line, they do try to keep a rhythm to what they're doing. So it's not just like
sometimes there is a rhythm and you can feel the meter a little bit, but sometimes it's like, okay, that didn't really work at all.
They just need exactly. They need to just end it. And they do use the old school finishing a thought or finishing dialogue with a couplet to go into the next moment. So a lot of times during a scene end, they will have a final couplet. Not always, but that is one thing that they've done consistently throughout the first 6 chapters for a lot of major character introductions and plot points, which I really like. That's just a very old-fashioned device for theater of couplet means scene change or character exit. Go.
But I totally agree that Rubella's gimmick is hilarious, and
great.
I wish she had more dialogue, if anything, so we got more out of it.
Although I was actually wondering about that last night while going through chapter 6, where I love her gag, but I feel like if do you think if they did it more, you would get so tired of it so quickly because it really is just a one note laugh kind of thing. It's the
May-
same thing repeated
mm,
again and again. Like I think
maybe,
right
but
now it's just enough. Like I want more, but I feel like if I had more, like okay, I get it. We get it. It's fun. Let's move
Okay,
on.
I understand that line of thinking, but I am more of the opinion I want more, so why isn't there more? I'm taking a bit
Fair,
more, I'm
fair.
more of a
Okay.
childish perspective, I guess. But
I like it.
the way that they handle this so far, I mean, we've played through the first 6 chapters, so we did through the
Hmm.
chapter where you meet Robert and he joins your
Yep.
party, and so counting Aurora, the main character, there are 5 playable characters.
You counting
Aurora.
the golem in that?
Oh, the Golem's a DLC character. I don't actually have him.
I'm having me there. I'm
Golem's
not cool
awesome.
enough.
So good.
Well, but okay, Golem aside, most of the dialogue that you get out of these characters when it isn't a quest specific to them is when you meet a new character. Like
Yes.
in chapter 6 when Robert joined, there's all kinds of dialogue with Robert when you're looking for the vault that he's trying to find, or when he's talking about the rat girl he's interested in. Oh yeah, Robert is an anthropomorphic mouse. I should mention. It's like that. All of chapter 6 is like you're reading a Brian Jakes Redwall book or something.
I love that you had to say that.
Yeah, but the
We're
but
in the middle
most
of Mossflower Woods. Let's
yeah,
go, boy.
exactly. Yeah, man, I read like 10 of those Brian Jakes books back when I was in my teens.
I read many as well.
But the most of your character dialogue outside of Aurora is when a new character joins. So when Robert joins, for the next I guess 4 battles, he has a little dialogue exchange with Rubella, then Finn, then Nora. So, but that's like all you ever like using. I guess Rubella as an example. She joins your party, then you hear her chime in whenever a new character joins, and then that's really all you hear out of her. And she's Rubella is a jester who's looking for her circus troupe. So I guess when we find her circus troupe, we'll hear plenty out of Rubella. But for now, she's really only just commenting on new people joining.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet her brother and see if he has the same gag or if he's the one who usually finishes her thoughts or if there's something there.
Or maybe he rhymes like every other word instead of never rhymes.
I
That
can't
would be
remember what
awesome.
he is. I feel like there's something there, and I can't remember what it was because I got him in my first playthrough.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's if you only got to chapter 8 in your first playthrough, then he's probably coming soonish.
Oh, it's coming.
I
up.
honestly don't remember where
Okay.
I got to. I didn't finish the
We're
game.
gonna find
I know
out that he actually got to the second to last chapter and just didn't realize he was there.
that's highly possible.
I did. I was curious how long the game was, so I did check a. Oh, it wasn't a guide. I think it was a wiki article just to see how many chapters there were. And
How
it
long
said,
to beat?
No, I didn't check that one. I don't. I think it was a wikia, but I forget. It looks like that there's 10 chapters plus end game stuff. That's like an 11th half chapter. I think is how it
Huh.
is. So this is not a long game at all. Like these 6, each chapter is maybe 45 minutes to an hour, probably
A
less.
delightful little journey.
So
Yeah, it's a nice little. It's refreshing.
so this
Definitely after we finish Danganronpa, because there's not much. Like, these games couldn't be farther apart from each other.
I forgot you guys finished that. That's right.
Yeah, these are 2 very, very different games. But yeah, Child of Light is definitely under 10 hours, probably closer to 6 or 7.
Yeah, I think How Long to Beat said 8 if you did 100% run. So yeah,
Nice.
you can chuck through it really quick.
I'm doing a lot of exploring, but I'm definitely not doing a 100% run. And also, I'm not sure if we really mentioned this. All of the UbiArt games are basically 2D layers. So
Yeah, 2D 2.5.
Yeah, exactly. So like how much pop there is and how much 3D appearance there is of the characters varies. I think in Child of Light, Aurora is the only character rendered in 3D. Everything else is in 2D planes or 2D layers. But it's like you can see the layers pop. Like there's the
Mhm.
layer you're standing on, and things like leaves or shadows or foreground that will jut ahead and background that'll be behind. But it looks like a beautiful storybook. There's that word again. And when you're navigating the world, it feels like a Metrovania game, like a Symphony of the Night or a Dust and Elysian Tale or a shadow complex, but then it cuts into random battles.
Shadow complex.
Then it cuts into random battles when you hit enemies. So it's like it's a turn-based RPG appropriation of that kind of 2D game that is normally a 2D action game. But it looks gorgeous, and there's lots of exploring you can do, and there's nooks and crannies all over the world, and it's super fun. The gameplay almost never gets in the way of what I want to do.
Mike, when you stopped, you said you played like the first chapter.
Yes.
Did you stop before you were able to fly last time?
Yes, and I am mad at myself for that. Like, I got to the monastery, and then I stopped playing, because something else popped up. I don't remember exactly why I stopped playing. But once you learn how to fly at the end of the second chapter, the game is so much fun and just explodes immediately. Like, because you associate flying or super jumping or, like, full exploration like that in a Metrovania game with being a last quarter thing. Like, that's the kind of ability where, oh, now I can go anywhere, now I'm near the end of the game, now I can do all of this. But in Child of Light, you get it in the second chapter, and the game just becomes way more vertical and way more free and awesome. And I wish I had gotten to that point when I first played this game, because then I wouldn't have stopped.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that you didn't start with wings. And so I started playing the game, I was like, this sucks. Because the first little bit is like, this is annoying. I'm jumping around,
platforming,
dragging this box around so I can get places.
Yeah, it seems like a less good version of one of those Metroidvania games.
It sounds so bad, but the nice thing is that segment lasts 15 minutes.
Yeah.
No.
Depending on how much you explore.
You have to get to the end of the monastery, so it's like an hour, maybe a little less.
It's like 15 minutes.
No, it's not an hour. Well, I guess you
the battles alone take 15 minutes. You have to beat those two statues.
I skipped a bunch of the battles early on.
Are you not battling correctly? So, for the record, if you do not play the game, there's a correct way to battle and an incorrect way to battle.
The correct way is to blind the enemy with your little mouse cursor guy, and then hit him from behind, so you get the preemptive
surprise bonus.
Yeah, the surprise bonus.
But then it becomes almost a rhythm game, which is super fascinating.
What? There's a rhythm aspect?
What?
You just mean in terms of timing it with?
You're talking about the
slot.
You're talking about the Grandia style battle meter thing.
Yeah,
and I never played Grandia, so like this blew my mind. Like, this is really, really cool.
Grandia is a 1998 game, dude.
Yeah, well,
PlayStation.
If I didn't play it, then this is the first time I've had it.
It was on the Saturn first, actually.
And that's why I didn't play it.
No one played it on the Saturn.
No, that's true.
You and two other people in the world.
No, I didn't. I never played it. I never played it on the Saturn, but it was a Saturn game first. Okay.
No, he's right. That's right. It's like Lunar being a Sega CD game.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Well, with Grandia, it was a straight port. With Lunar, they're like totally different games almost. But
I know.
The important thing being, it reminds me, and it's not the same style, but it reminds me of the Mario RPGs, where there's a lot of RPG games that you sit in line and you either queue up attacks or you're basically just pressing X, 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 and you just keep attacking. And sometimes you get creative and you move your guys to a certain spot and you attack from behind in some RPGs. A lot of times there is not some sort of active participation in the moment-to-moment segments. Right. And that's one of the things I really like about the Mario RPGs. You have to jump when the people attack or dodge, or you have to knock things back with a wooden hammer. That is interesting. It's the same thing with this. There is a thought process of which characters I want to have in, because they have different layers of speed. How I am going to use my little firefly to slow down my enemies, because if you shine over them, their bar progresses slower. Mm-hmm. And having all of this timed out, because if you attack when they're in their attacking phase, you'll interrupt their attack and they'll go to the beginning of the meter. And you can literally go through an entire fight, if you're smart about it, and have them never get an attack off.
Yeah, no, that happens all the time. I'm just saying, in the first 2 chapters, you fight for about 15 minutes. That's not...
No.
Yeah. No, you just have a child and no concept of time anymore.
You're just not good at video games, is what I'm saying.
The baby agrees with someone. I'm not sure which one, though.
I know I'm right, and Josh is often wrong, so, I mean, come on.
Josh is never wrong.
Wow, okay. Yeah.
But anyways, the important thing is...
that kid's older to disagree with everything you said.
The battle system I'm just going to transition to the battle system, since we can at least agree on that. I really, really, really enjoy this battle system. I adore everything about this game, like how whimsical it is. But it would be very easy for this game to be beautiful and fascinating in that regard, and then just be garbage or phoned in for its battle system. And I think they did a very good job making something interesting, making something that is fun to play, that adds to the game instead of just being a side thought.
And it's a very simple conceit. There's nothing very overly complex about the system. Yes, you have the oculi, and you can use that to, amp or change weapons and your stats just a little bit. So you feel like there's a little bit of customization, but you don't really even need to do that.
Using gems like that makes me think that I'm playing a Diablo game, which I definitely appreciated.
Yeah, just a win, let's be honest. But what I do love about the system is I do think it is a little simple at times, and especially once you get the hang of it, it's not difficult. This is not a difficult game if you are used to RPGs. And again, maybe that's going to change as we go forward, but at this point, I feel pretty good about that.
I have never been close to losing a single battle. It's not challenging. The Grandia meter stuff is good. The differences between all the different characters is cool. There's a lot of good things about this combat design and the fights in general, but it's never
simple.
Hard.
Exactly.
No. And then they even have, if you screw up, the Firefly helps you out tremendously because it can collect more health.
Oh yeah, there's so many ways to heal yourself and restore mana that the only time I ever used potions was during 2 boss fights when I was running low on mana, and Rubella is your healing character, but I've never had her use a healing spell ever because potions are faster and better. And outside of those 2 battles where I needed potions, I've always been able to heal myself with Firefly.
Yeah, I made a mistake when I first started this game because I was like, absolutely need to be able to revive, absolutely need to be able to heal, and I forgot how little I actually needed that.
Did you build her to get healing spells?
Yeah, I did the heal revive really quickly, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, that's right, she's just super fast and can attack strong, so let's just build her strength and have her do that really quickly.
Yeah, I
had to redirect how I was speccing her.
I wish I had done that. I just kept having her on healing stuff, but I should have done that. What I did instead was just stop using her, and I use Finn and Nora almost exclusively.
The Golem's where it's at.
Well,
I'm telling you.
I don't have DLC, so I don't have the
Golem. Baller.
But yeah, to just kind of finish up, even though it's simple, the game I think that actually fits more with the aesthetic of fairy tale and a child's storybook, as we've said, using that word too much. But it really fits with the aesthetic because it allows anyone to play this game. I've shown this game to people who don't play video games. Some art history majors and others, family members.
Art history majors play video games. Come on.
No, but specifically, this is the girlfriend of my soon-to-be wife of my brother, and she doesn't play video games.
Let's not be educationalist
here. We had to make it easy for him.
Yeah, exactly. But and the reason why this was a great game to jump into is she actually specializes in German Romantic era painting, so Caspar Friedrich and all the others, which is what mainly a lot of the assets of this game are inspired by. So I was able to basically show her grad school major in a video game.
What was her perspective?
Battle system on the art she thought was stunning. She was so excited to be in that world and just be able to explore, just from a perspective of living in a painting. She thought it was beyond belief incredible. And then for a battle system, for someone who's never really played a game, it was gentle and simple enough with a little bit of complexity, but if she doesn't totally nail the interrupting moments, it's still not hard enough to totally punish her for not being perfect at the battle system.
Yeah, for the most part, even if you avoid battles, you're over-leveled for everything with the exception of a couple boss battles. Because when I played through the first time, this was actually part of the reason I stopped. I skipped every battle because I wanted to make the game hard, so I purposely was super, super under-leveled.
It just becomes a huge grind, because I'm doing that a little bit. I've definitely skipped more monsters this time around, and it's not you're going to beat the boss. It's just going to take you
Right.
5 more minutes.
And then it was just not fun at that point. I was still. It wasn't terribly difficult. It was just annoying at that point, and that was ultimately why I stopped my first time through.
Makes sense.
So I'm being much more patient with it,
Methodical
and
getting
I'm attacking
your
everybody
encounters.
that I can, and
Well, okay,
so
I don't do that.
I am super over leveled. I think I'm probably approaching the level that I was when I stopped last time.
Damn.
Or I probably actually. Well, I wish I could remember where I stopped last time, but I had already passed that level.
Yeah, it is a good battle system. I love that you can choose the encounters or avoid them, and that they have a mechanic involving that.
Yeah, it's
Super
really
smart.
easy to use your Firefly cursor guy to blind enemies and then just walk by them.
And then just go by. And
or just
and
fly
that's the
over
thing
them.
is, to me, this is a great game to recommend to vets of the genre and also to complete newbies. It's such a fantastic first RPG because it eases you into mechanics, and it's such a wonderful world to be in that even if you don't love RPGs, there's a good chance you're going to be captivated by what's on the screen.
And also, something we mentioned before, this is not a long game. It's probably only 8 hours.
You could do it in a day if you were dedicated.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but it would be super easy to beat this in a weekend. And if someone is new to the genre, maybe doesn't want to play a 60-hour game because what if they don't like it? Like this is, I think this is a great choice for someone's first RPG, whether they're already a gamer or a non-gamer.
Yep.
Because for all the reasons that you said, and also the time commitment is not much at all.
Yeah.
So I understand the new gamer, but it's harder for me to go into those shoes because we've played enough RPGs.
Oh, totally.
That's why for me I completely look at it as a palate cleanser.
Yeah, it was then, and it still is because there's not really much like it. There's a couple games you can point to, but that's really.
You mentioned Gears of War earlier, and that was during the time when this was coming out. I mean, there was let's chainsaw and shoot everybody we can. Let's have very dark games. Let's have adult games because we're adult gamers now.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't the 360 really cool and edgy? And this came out, and I think I already used this, but breath of fresh air. It is very, very different from even anything that's for the most part out now. And
I think I played this a month after The Last of Us.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. And the same thing, like coming from Danganronpa, I was like, everybody's dying, we're betraying each other. It's still put in like a kind of cool anime art style, but at the end of the day, we're trying to kill each other, and it's like that is hard to deal with. Last of Us, that is all sorts of messed up. And to go from that and be like, all right, I no longer hate myself, I no longer hate the world, everything is okay.
The last
game it was a year after
played,
The Last of Us. I lied.
The last big game I played was Dragon Quest VII, which is a 70-hour RPG slog. It's good, but it's long
or 120 hours.
well, the PS1 version is over 100 hours, but the 3DS version is truncated a bit.
Oh, really? Okay.
So yeah, I beat it in 70 hours. But I mean, and also it's very old school, so it's a lot of walking through dungeons and a lot of semi-random battles. But then you go through this, and it's like, oh, I'm just floating and flying everywhere.
I know.
I don't have to get into a battle unless I want. And I know this game is under 10 hours, and instead of knowing that a game is going to be maybe 100, almost everything about Child of Light is refreshing.
Yeah.
It really is. Although what's hilarious is, I mean, I wasn't a part of the episode, but I love Danganronpa, and to me, that's a breath of fresh air in a very different way. So I love that these were back to back for you guys.
And I actually, so I wrote my final thoughts for Danganronpa 2 days ago. I don't know what day it is. Very, very recently,
Again,
I think.
New parents, no concept of time.
I think literally during that one point, I talked about how refreshing it was because they did such a good job taking those serious elements, making it as crazy as you can in that situation, making it believable, doing it with a level of just brutality.
Yeah, it's just everyone in that world buys into that world.
Right,
it's just no matter how weird it is. It's
as much as they bought into the utter destruction of all human beings and hope around you. This goes the complete other direction, and it's a celebration of hope to a certain regard.
Yeah. Child of Light.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, so
they do rhyme light with night a lot in this game.
Woo!
Yeah, the baby agreed.
Yeah.
We got this thing going on.
How many
Yeah.
times do they rhyme the word light with the word night in this game?
Many.
Okay.
Because especially with the narration, light and night is consistent. With
Yeah,
whoever
because
that-
she's always talking about sun and moon, so because of
Yeah.
that, light's brought up a lot.
I liked how at the end of chapter 2, the lady in the woods tells you that you need to find the sun, the moon, and the stars to to complete your quest. And she's like, and then she tells her where the sun and moon are, and she goes, "Well, where are the stars?" And the lady in the woods goes, "Oh, they're right there. Yeah, just jump and grab them."
Yeah, look up.
Yeah.
I'll pluck them out of the sky. It's like, okay.
But
thanks,
also,
lady.
one other thing about characters, we have 4 characters that are Aurora's companions so far. Do either of you have a favorite?
I definitely think, in terms of writing, Bella's the most fun.
Yeah.
But in terms of most useful, I would say Finn.
Yeah, so Finn is the most useful, and after we get through this, I want to talk about my only kind of generalized complaint. It's not fair for me to say this, but I really like the golem. Sorry, guys.
So how do you get the golem, hypothetically, even with the DLC?
I know he's a
show up?
DLC character, but I don't know anything else about him.
It's basically where Chapter 2 starts, when you guys walk through the forest or whatever. And it says, "Welcome, you now have a world map."
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
There's a head staring up into the sky there. And you come over and talk to him, and it's like, "Yo, what's up?" basically. And he's like, "Oh, I used to be like here, and then the Queen of the Night or Lady of the Night, whatever, she pushed me off because he used to defend the palace, and he exploded when he hit the ground. And so you're like, all right, well, do you want to go get fixed?" And he's like, "No, I'm just hanging out tanning, basically." And so you're like, okay, well, I know you want this, but I'm just gonna put you in my bag. And so you pick up the head, and then you travel around, and in the area right after that, you just kind of go in the generalized area, and you find his legs,
His other pieces.
his torso, and his arms.
That's cool. I like that, actually.
Yeah, it's not terribly difficult, but it's like a pseudo fetch quest, I guess. And then he like gets put together, and he's massive. He's huge. He's 2.5, 3 times taller than you, and like 2 times as wide, 3 times as wide. He's huge.
Okay.
And
So it's like the troll ogre sprites that you fight.
yes, he's really, really big. And then out of nowhere, you build him, and out of nowhere, he pulls like this axe wood staff thing out of the ground, and
You're
he
like,
just
okay, thanks, dude.
smashed it in the ground. He's like, "Let's do this," and I'm like, "All right, well."
Yeah.
But he's basically essentially your tank character.
Yeah, that's great. It's like everything you want.
Yeah, there aren't any really heavy physical characters.
There's a golem.
Okay, but besides the golem, who is DLC.
I think it was a pre-order.
Maybe I probably can get him somehow. I'm not
I bet
even
at
sure
this
how much
point
he costs.
you could download it at this point for
I could,
like
but it's-
$2 or $1, whatever.
I think it was $1.99 even when it came out.
Okay, I might get it yet. I'm not sure, but
The great.
Go ahead.
Sorry. The great thing is specifically like moving into. So this ties into like my only quibble, and it has to do with the gems and being able to energize your weapons for fire, lightning, or water, which is an interesting side effect. It's nice, but for the most part, don't really need it, like we said. But when you get to the Hydra boss,
Oh yeah, it becomes annoying.
it is extremely necessary to be switching. And then the great thing you have going into that boss then is you have 3 characters that have a dedicated gem to their weapons, and then Finn. And it actually makes that boss battle even easier.
I didn't
Instead of
think
the
that.
grind.
I didn't think that one was ever hard. I didn't even attack it. I just used Aurora's light magic and then Finn's elemental magic.
Yeah, because Finn beasts on him. But the only complaint I have for that then is when they have 4 segments where you have to have multiple different kind of elemental like add-ons.
Right.
There's no way to know going into the battle that you'd need that. There's no way to switch while you're in battle. And so then you're kind of set.
Wait, did you have Aurora go all physical?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I had her go almost all magic. Yeah,
I'd gotten far enough that I found out that the beginning's much easier if she's physical, and then the end's easier if it's magic. So I have enough time. I've already started slightly going back towards magic.
Oh, and for the uninitiated, every character, listeners that is, every character has basically 3 paths of their skills, and every time you level up, you get a skill point. You choose to invest in one of those paths, and I do every character a little differently. Sometimes I'll have them just go through one path. Sometimes I'll have them split a little bit. But Aurora's 3 paths are physical and defense, single target, and boosting magic, and then death, magic, and counterattacks.
I'm waiting for the secret ending where it becomes the sphere grid, and we can make them any character we want.
It's a little sphere grid-ish, a little bit.
That's why they have those extra boxes at the end.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I keep waiting for. It's just like magically you can do any character if you get the right orb.
I'm guessing that maybe those unlock in his story point, but I don't know how yet.
I haven't been there, so.
But I do view that as we were talking about how great it is because it's really, really easy for a new person to come in and be able to pick up and play it. I have to imagine if your art history major had played that battle specifically, that would have been very confusing and very hard, and have been probably I could see a lot of people.
With the Hydra one, yeah.
Right, and they're coming in for the first time. They don't necessarily understand that. They don't really explain that, and then there's no way to prep for the battle going into it.
I disagree.
But there's the visual cues of the Hydra, and you're tapping into the folklore of that kind of a creature. I guess I'm thinking specifically with gaming folklore, though, the idea of each head does something different.
Right.
But I don't think it's that confusing, because if you look at the skill descriptions for every elemental skill, it'll tell you how that elemental skill works. It's like lightning is strong against water, water is strong against fire, fire is strong against earth, earth strong
I'm more
against
just
lightning.
saying for that battle specifically.
But
I don't have an issue with it in the long run. It's for that battle. I do remember when I played it the first time, I was not set up for that battle, and it was much more difficult than when I had it this time.
But I wasn't set up for the battle either. I didn't understand it at all, but because they just had the elemental mage character join at the beginning of that dungeon, and then the dungeon has monsters with those elemental weaknesses throughout the dungeon, it's teaching you how to use these elemental weaknesses as a consequence of having Finn join it when he does, and that dungeon when it happens. And then the boss is a 3-headed monster with each head being like one head is obviously earth, one's obviously fire, and one's obviously water.
Very fluid design.
It's communicated. It was communicated very clearly to me. So I had to be a little careful because I had to make sure that Finn wouldn't get interrupted, and I had what's her name, Aurora, doing mostly light magic and defense, because I think I had a water thing attached to her sword, but it was so I was able to attack the fire one but not the others. But it was the way that the dungeon was set up and the elemental weaknesses were communicated. I didn't feel betrayed by having a monster that way, and I think it would be challenging for a new person that hasn't played an RPG before, because elemental weaknesses are something that every veteran RPG player is familiar with.
But it teaches them that mechanic.
But it teaches them to you, and I don't think it was unfair. It was I don't think Child of Light ever plays unfair. It's a very consistent game that I don't think is that difficult.
You know what? I was thinking about this more. I'm pretty sure the first time I played that boss battle back in the day, I don't think I added any skill attributes to Finn when I fought the battle.
Oh, you didn't realize that you had to do the full upgrade of his tree kind of thing once you
chose
get him? Not to? You're like, I don't care about this.
Well, with Finn, I just had
guy with the thing on his head.
With Finn, I only really put points into his lightning tree because that's the one that boosts your spell power. So, and that's what I wanted to do with him.
Yeah, his Kapuli ancestry or whatever. Rage.
Oh, and also, I should mention, I mostly use Finn and Nora because I liked Nora's speed boosting and slow spells, and I liked Finn's elemental magic. But one particular reason that I like Finn is because his water spell is called Monsoon. And you may know this, but I am Monsoon on the forums, and my Twitter is @TheRealMonsoon. And Monsoon.
He's the real Monsoon.
Yeah, he's a realer Monsoon than I, perhaps.
Or maybe he was named after you.
Monsoon has been my gaming handle since 2009 or 2010. So, yeah, I appreciated having a monsoon spell that I could cast regularly.
I never do any sort of speed bonuses, weakness bonuses, any type of casting characters like that. So
I love buffing and debuffing characters. I love
hate it.
Nope. In RPGs,
There's no direct effect.
except it makes everyone stronger.
No.
I think
Just make your person so strong that you don't need it. That's the direction I go.
the stupid direction.
Beat them by
Got it.
power. See, once again, Mike's wrong.
No, once again, Josh is never right. Anyway, I use boosting stuff in Western RPGs, in loot games, in Persona. I like boosting stuff, and
Persona, I never do it there either.
And in Child of Light, the game we're actually playing, there's a lot of meter manipulation and turn manipulation. So having the speed increasing, speed decreasing character, I like to use a lot. So yeah, Finn and Nora are my jams, but I like Finn the best because he has a monsoon spell.
Fair enough. I don't find that interesting, but I understand why it's so important. That's not how I like to play games. But she is a cool character.
Jace indeed.
Oh, actually, you know what? Perfect. Chris is here. Tiebreaker, Chris.
Oh, good God! Oh God!
Wait,
What?
what are we tie breaking?
Who's right about this?
It's obviously me because you're never right.
You know what? I'm not gonna lie. I totally zoned out because it was just another argument between the two of you. So what am I helping with?
Okay.
Do you prefer just to attack, or would you rather debuff and buff?
Do you think buffs and debuffs are useful or fun?
Oh,
in
no,
RPGs?
I did not say they were not useful. I said they're not enjoyable. That's not how I like to play games.
Okay.
They're super helpful.
So we're saying general or this game specifically?
Both.
In general, basically,
Oh, okay.
I like using buff
If
and
you don't do buffs and debuffs in the majority of, you don't seem to be a huge Final Fantasy fan, so clearly that's not. No, I'm talking not you.
Oh.
I'm talking about Josh. Sorry, that's right. There's two of you. You're like, what the hell?
I used to write for a website called cavesofnarsh.com.
I know. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. My bad.
No, I think debuffs and buffs. It does depend on the game, but they are so useful. And really, what it comes down to, similarly in this game, is it just speeds up the process because you can totally beast through with just attack. To your point, Josh, but if you debuff and buff accordingly, you can just expedite the process, and it feels like you're, finding a cheat code to an extent to certain battles. But I don't mean that in a negative way, and that's not the right word.
Mm-hmm.
It just sounds like you're understanding the code and figuring out how to play the game at a higher level.
Play the game
I
better.
feel like you're agreeing
Exploit.
with me by saying that.
I feel you're agreeing.
To make the game easier so you can actually beat it.
No, I feel like Chris is agreeing with me because he's talking about because he says that debuffs and buffs can be useful depending on the game.
He has to use the cheat code character to be able to get through it.
Cheat code character? Playing the game how it's meant to be played is a cheat code. Got it.
They put the character in there just
confirmed. Josh does not know how to play games.
Be like, I'm right.
They put it in there just to make it so that people that aren't good at games can get through.
Imagine during those answers, both of you flicked your hairs, being like, but.
Oh man. How do they let this guy make a child?
Yeah, I know, right?
Right.
The even crazier thing is that you guys let me be in charge of podcasts.
I might have to put in a couple calls about that. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
So I'd like to officially say goodbye to everybody since this is gonna be my last one. Yeah. I think debuffs and buffs are worthless, but I think this game is great.
Do you want to? Is that how we wrap up? Debuffs are useless, but I like this game.
In summary,
Josh Curry for 2020.
Fans of the genre will find that buffs aren't necessary, but they can still do it. No, in all honesty, I think they have the archetypes for each of the characters that make it very easy for you to understand. I feel like, again, going back to a good first game, a lot of games would have kind of a mixture of both. And you do, in some elements, you have some of that. Like the Golem, I'm sorry guys, but the Golem is really strong, but he also has a knockback ability.
Oh yeah, he's really strong and doesn't have any nuance at all to him, so of course he's Josh's favorite character.
Yeah, just beat the hell out of everybody. fun. But he has a whole. We talked about different pathways. One of the pathways is he has a paralysis. Paralyzing effect, and then he
You're
also
gonna say
has.
paralegal effect. I was like, there's a subgenre of this game.
That'd be awesome. You're out of order. But they have a knockback effect and also a way to paralyze people with him, and then he also has just a strength. But for the most part, you kind of look at it. There is just archetypes. There's a mage. There is a speed debuff buff person. There is a.
There's a healer, and then Robert the Mouse is a. He's like a status effect archer guy, I guess.
Yeah. But they put it in very general, easy to understand. It's not. Again, it's not. You have to go one route. There is probably a strongest route to do, but you'd be fine with any combination of the characters. You'd be able to get through any of them.
Yeah, no, they provide a good amount of freedom for character customization. They do well by all of these RPG systems in Child of Light.
Yeah.
And also, I switch characters pretty often, but you probably could beat the game without ever using the character change function.
Yeah, I remember when I first went through, it was Rebella until I got the Golem, and then I only used the Golem and Aurora, with very rare exceptions when I had to use magic or something. But this time I'm going through and almost as if you're playing Pokemon where you need to get each character to at least do something to be able to get experience for everybody. I'm almost doing that in a lot of the battles where I'm switching around. I'm trying to balance it out, trying to enjoy.
Yeah, but a side comment for the listeners: you don't actually need to do that in Child of Light. Everyone gains experience
they all auto
equally.
experience. Yeah.
Just again, nice.
Mm-hmm. But Aurora gains experience slower than everyone else because she's gonna be use the most, I guess. But she's always a few levels lower than my side characters.
But so.
Yeah, because for whatever reason, by the time you get them, they're already 3 levels ahead.
Yeah,
unless you
right.
grind
And then they gain levels.
Every monster. That's
and then
what
they
it
gain
is,
levels
the first
faster.
Time I played.
Yeah, because it's really frustrating at the beginning because Rebella's a couple levels ahead of you, and then she's still actually somehow leveling faster than you, which makes 0 sense. But I think the balance of this is they do have a Stardust element, which give you permanent procs on your character.
Right.
And I think they assume because Aurora's the main character that everybody's going to use it on her. I think it's a balancing effort on their part to make sure that somebody doesn't get too she doesn't just become absolutely beastly.
Interesting.
Because I found myself last time when I played it that I immediately put all the Stardust in there because I was like, oh, she's gonna have to be my main character. They're gonna take characters in and out, so I might as well invest in the person I know will be involved. And I haven't put any Stardust on anybody this time, but that was kind of when I was thinking about this time around. I was like, that might be why they have her level slower.
Yeah, I'm a little worried that someone might leave my party, or there might even be a part without Aurora for part of the game. So I haven't used any Stardusts yet, but once I know I'm in the final dungeon, I'm just gonna pour them all on my favorite characters. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and that is a nice easy solution. It's like, all right, well, final battle, I'm gonna use this mage. So here's a bunch of there, and here's my strength person. There's that. And just go through and crush.
Go destroy.
Yeah, because you're probably already super over-leveled for the encounter anyways, but let's make it even easier.
Go forth and massacre.
But I wanted to play more of this game just to see what crazy towns we get, because we had the town full of dwarves.
And populations, yeah.
Yeah, who's this, a 13-year-old dwarf has a beard that goes down to his legs. And then
just old fast, yeah.
And then there was the next village on top of a mountain. I'm like, oh, I wonder if these will be just different looking dwarves or something. But no, they're a bunch of red wall mossflower mice.
That's great.
And it's
so unique.
Everything about this game is
like, who's that non-mouse? And you're like, wait, that's not how this works.
It's everything is so cute and storybook. There's that word again.
Storybook.
I'm excited to play more of this storybook. Absolutely.
The new drinking game for RPG fan. Every time Mike says storybook, you have to take a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, my liver cries.
I'm gonna see if I can give anyone alcohol poisoning by just using it every sentence next episode.
Trashed in the first 5 minutes of the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Retro encounter. We will get you drunk.
We'll get you drunk.
Then you don't have to listen to us argue with each other.
He agrees. I knew it.
Yeah. Mm. Well done, Silas. I agree.
Thank you.
The unofficial 4th member of the podcast.
Oh, always.
Yeah. So it sounds like everybody's super up on it, excited to finish. I'm really interested to see where our theories of how it's going to end kind of goes.
And what this world really is.
I am
Yeah.
too. I agree that with Chris that the stepmother is a logical choice for final
Yes,
villain.
she is.
But it's
But it might be too obvious, which is why I'm not married to it.
yeah, I don't I do think that this is some kind of dream world and not the afterlife. But other than that, I really don't know where this game's going. I'm excited to play through the end of it.
Yeah, I really, really, really want to see how it ends, and I am extremely excited to see just more of the locations and people that you're going to meet. Because, like we were saying, every place is so unique. It's just kind of a joy to see different environments and different
And how
ways
they
of looking
portray
at things. Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of a combination of that. So we'll, I'm sure we'll more about that during the next episode.
Absolutely. Oh, Silas, you're the best.
Yeah. His nap made it through only 15 minutes of this podcast, so that's been fun.
It's been longer than 15 minutes. Again,
No, he's been with me
young parents,
for the last 40 minutes.
No concept of time.
I fed him a bottle while we were doing this. I have played with him.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I didn't ask. How is everyone playing the game? Vita or something else? Because I'm doing Vita.
So are you playing native Vita?
Oh, yeah.
So I meant to mention this when we first started. I have never set up remote play before. I love my Vita and I love my PS4, and you think it'd make sense for me to set up remote play. Never done it until this game.
So you're playing it on PS4 and Vita?
Yeah, I'm playing it on PS4 because I only have it on PS4 and it's not cross-buy. Thanks, guys. Couldn't have thrown us a bone there. And I was too cheap to spend like the $9 to get it again because I already own it. But I set up remote play, so I'm playing on my Vita 90% of the time. Really good. Granted, I'm in my house. I have not done. I want to before this is done. I would like to go play it somewhere else and see how it works when it's not on the same Wi-Fi.
Just have to make sure it's a great connection, which is hard to do depending on where you live.
But again, the great thing is it'd be a little bit difficult with some of the timing for the battles. But for the most part, even that
slow-paced enough that it would probably not be terrible.
Right, and so for the most part, there'd be things that I might not get a surprise attack. There'd be a couple possible puzzles that'd be a little bit more annoying, but it's a nice pace. I've also been playing Diablo 3, which thus far I've not had no issues with that.
Nice.
But so I'm
this has broken your world. You're lying in bed.
Super impressed with it.
And you're so happy right now.
Well, because it's always one of those things that's like, well, I'd really like to do this, but kind of hanging out with my wife, or I'm supposed to be watching this kid, and we have like, now with him around, we have to put like kid shows on occasionally, because I'm still waiting for him to start swearing, because I occasionally swear, and that's terrifying. And so now I can do whatever I want on my Vita, and he's not actually aware of it, or I can hang out with my wife, and I can still do what I want, possibly, if she's watching some crazy show I don't want to watch. And it is completely opened my world. It has been fantastic.
Talking about cheat codes to life.
I know, it really is. It's a life hack. Because we're trying to get through these games in a month, which Child of Light not going to be a problem. It's super short. But when we do some of the longer ones, there's been like always that kind of concern in the back of my mind. Is like, it is so much easier to play it when it's portable. And I've talked about, I've heard remote play mentioned so many times. I've always thought about it. And I was like, well, it has to be complex to set up. It's literally flipping a switch and it works. It was super easy to set up. Really, really fun, really easy. It works fantastically. So if you somehow have not done it and you own a Vita and have a PS4, highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm playing it on PC. It's I bought it for $375 a year and a half ago on a sale.
Steam sale.
Yeah.
Well, look at me, I'm so cool. I play PC games.
No.
Okay,
I'm wrong. I think it was $5 because I got it bundled with the soundtrack, and I was really interested in. I really liked the soundtrack.
Try to play remote play. I play it on my desktop, and I just whip out my laptop, and it's there too because I'm so cool.
Okay, maybe not exactly the words I used. I don't own a laptop, but
Jeez.
But
someone talks to a lot of PC nerds, because that was laden with hate.
I actually couldn't play PC games until I got this desktop, and when I did that in 2012, it opened up a whole new world for me. It was great.
Yeah, I bet it did.
Oh, the number of, going off of Chris's point, the number of people I've had to talk to, because everybody knows, like, I love PlayStation. They're like, oh, that PlayStation Pro, pretty cool, right? Too bad it's like 3 years ago on a PC. Like, screw you guys.
dude, I mean, I'm a big Sony fan as well. I mean, I'm one of the. I mean, many people in RPG fan own Vitas, but they're not really a common machine, at least in North America and Europe. So
I know, that's the one beautiful thing of working at the site. It's like, someone else owns one.
yeah,
I'm not alone.
we're all the happy
Vita's
few
so
that
amazing.
own Vitas. It's great.
Yeah,
We're the
we are
blessed few.
We live on the island. It's a beautiful place to be.
Hmm. And we got Ys Memories of Celceta. We got Persona 4 Golden.
Yeah.
This is
A lot
the
of
Persona 4
visual
Golden
novels.
crew talking right now, actually, isn't it?
We just got Darkest Dungeon with a really, really complex UI system of how they manage the Vita, but good God, it's still fun to play, and I'm enjoying that game.
We're getting
thoroughly.
Tokyo Xanadu and probably Ys 8 next year. Falcom Love.
Just keep trickling out those RPGs, and I'll be happy.
Are those good compared to the Trails games, at least?
They're both action games.
Dark.
But I
also,
haven't
Dragon
played
Quest Builders.
I haven't played either of them yet.
I
though.
really want to play Builders on my Vita.
I've heard
I really want to
good
play
things.
Builders, period. But again, it was one of those things. Now I've become just like this douchey prick when it comes to this. It's like, why isn't it cross-buy? Like, how hard would that have been? Everybody bitches that there's no Vita out there. So it's like, give it to a cross-buy, and then you don't have to worry about it 'cause you're not losing money because nobody buys things on Vita anyways,
The
right?
majority of the cross-buy stuff usually comes from direct Sony involvement.
Yeah.
and
I only own
Square
two
knows
cross-buy
they're
games.
going to make more money.
Yeah,
if they
Square
don't.
never does it.
Yeah, I only own 2 cross-buy games, and one of them technically isn't even out yet. So it's an
Speaking of remote play,
it's an uncommon feature.
Awesome.
I think I'm going to play all of Final Fantasy 15 on my Vita.
Oh,
That
neat.
would
Okay.
be crazy.
Oh,
I know.
Good
I'm super excited.
I'm
I have,
interested
like,
to see how
I'm
that
all
works.
in now.
It works on screen, especially text. That's the only thing that can be bothersome. Small
Yeah.
text.
Yeah.
Like the Vita
Yeah, that-
XCOM port was.
I mute all my games, so that might be actually problematic.
It'd be so hard to play.
Oh,
Well, this
That's-
wasn't
that's our-
outro until I asked that question.
that's our Vita minute.
We should just do a whole Viva La Vita episode of.
When they officially announce it's being discontinued, we should do like a
Oh,
yeah.
sunset show.
I'm calling. There's a Vita 2 announcement coming soon.
hope so,
No.
'cause-
I'm not PlayStation Experience this year, but I think PlayStation Experience next year. Vita 2. It won't be called Vita.
I would not
It'll be
take
Vita
that
too.
bet. I would not take that bet.
Neither would I, but I want it.
Oh, but hey, Josh. Speaking of bets, I think this episode is going to air right before BlizzCon, which is November
BlizzCon.
4th. Do you have a prediction?
Diablo 4.
Oh, okay, that's a prediction.
Really? I mean, I know they were hiring, but that would be intense.
Yeah, we're recording this in the third week of October, so BlizzCon is soon, and we'll post this right before BlizzCon.
Ties wins Hearthstone World Championship.
Okay, sure. And I'll throw a couple Heroes of the Storm predictions then. I think that MVP Black is going to win the HOTS championship, and they're going to announce either Kel'Thuzad or Malthael as a new character. Yeah.
Ooh.
But not both,
Interesting.
because then they'll just be 2 big dark floaty death guys.
You don't think they're going to go a couple more Overwatch characters first?
I think that more Overwatch is coming, yes, but the second most recent character was Zarya from Overwatch.
Yep, sorry.
So there's so I don't know if they'll do 2 Overwatch characters almost back to back, but they're probably going to announce 3 because they announced 3 last year and 3 before the year before as well.
Right.
And I'm just thinking one of them is going to be either Malthael or Kel'Thuzad.
That'd be super cool.
I also, sorry, Chris.
No, do it.
You're jumping in on this? Go ahead.
Oh,
give,
I
a,
mean-
Yeah, no, hit us.
give a prediction.
Sorry,
Just don't
come
take
on.
my prediction I'm about to do.
No, I was just going to go. There's clearly going to be a new Overwatch character announced.
Oh, yeah.
During,
At least
It's so
one.
obvious.
I think 2 or 3 is a maybe, but at least 1 absolutely.
No, they're going to do one because by doing the very slow trickle for that game, people will just eat up anything. They don't need to do over. It's still new enough. You don't need to flood the game to keep people involved. I mean, I play so much of Overwatch. I adore that game.
And also, when they added Ana, she was available for everyone immediately, right?
Pretty much. Well, it was on the test server for PC first.
Oh, okay,
because
sure,
that's
yeah,
how they do
yeah.
the tweaking. But the second it releases, it's pretty much immediate. It just depends on what goes through cert. So I think
Right,
it was
well,
on
I mean,
Xbox a day
yeah.
early, but
Yeah,
it was,
beta and
it was
PTR.
just unilateral. Just all happened.
Yeah,
They'll
yeah.
do a character, and I think they do one of the promo vids or whatever the story.
Oh,
Yeah, they do
okay.
story.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a good call. They'll do a story.
I think they'll do one of those.
Makes sense. But,
So my other big prediction outside of Diablo 4,
Mm-hmm.
Warcraft 4.
No. Oh wow. Okay. Well, that would be a mind blow. But
I would
I
say
would not
that-
take that bet.
I am going the direction that they can't go to StarCraft 3. They have to do something for that genre of games. They did the episodes last time. They announced that they're not going to just announce, "Hey, we have more episodes." I think they drop a hint or actually outright announce.
Actually, if they announce anything for an RTS, it's going to be because they've already acknowledged that they're doing it and they've hired for it. I think they will actually announce a release date for the remastered StarCraft and Brood War. The originals.
That's a much safer.
I think
Yeah, but I think it is. I think that is what's going to happen. I forgot that was happening until you mentioned StarCraft.
I had forgotten about that too, because they'll talk about Diablo 2 as well.
Yeah, I'm with you on half of your predictions, Josh. I think that either a Diablo 3 expansion or Diablo 4 is very, very likely. Yeah. Well, I mean, a D3 expansion or Diablo 4 is very, very likely. A Warcraft 4 is extremely unlikely. So yeah, I like how you went one slightly bold and one very bold prediction.
I'm going bold.
Yep.
You want me to do my safe one? Hearthstone's going to have another expansion of cards. It'll be 120 cards.
What?
There.
No way.
I know.
Blasphemy?
I know.
How could you?
I'm feeling faint, man. I can't handle all of this.
Yeah.
There. So I have a safe and out there and a super out there prediction.
Cards. Like, you know how Magic the Gathering has 4 blocks every year?
Whoa,
There's
slow
gonna be
down.
4 blocks every year.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
Because it's actually legitimately scheduled and they've already announced that they're announcing cards.
We gotta stop the podcast, guys. I can't handle this anymore.
Way too much.
Oh man.
So be sure to
BlizzCon.
tune in for our BlizzCon podcast. You'll be able to hear if we were correct in all our predictions, some of our predictions, or none of our predictions. Run through everything that we saw and watched and what we're excited for. It's a really fun podcast last year, so I think this year will be good too. And then beyond that, we have all sorts of kind of side content, but I think most of that's coming out before this. I don't know. I'm not in charge of releasing things.
By the time this has come out, people will have already heard our Falcom episode and our Final Fantasy 15 Kingsglaive episode. But yeah, right after this should be the BlizzCon episode.
And possibly a Final Fantasy 6.
Yeah, I think the Final Fantasy 6 episode was a lot of fun to record, but it keeps getting pushed back. I'm not sure when that one's coming out. It's like when we have
2025.
That's going to be like when we have a really bad week and we can't record or post anything. It's like, oh, we have this FF6 one sitting here. Let's
in the hopper. Go.
Or if we can't decide on a game to cover for a month, we'll just do one episode for 6.
It's not like it's a big deal or anything.
No. So in the meantime, you guys can send your emails to retro@rpgfan.com. Be sure to go to our boards. You can comment there. We love hearing your thoughts on what you want us to cover and what you thought we missed, because we usually miss stuff, and it's always interesting to hear you guys' perspective on everything. And then finally, wherever you listen to this for the podcast, be sure to go on there, especially iTunes, rate and review. Those reviews help us out tremendously, so if you could do that, that would be wonderful. But yeah, in the meantime, that's going to do it for us here. Be sure to check in for our future content because we got a lot of fun stuff coming.